one was coming up, but this sort of primed you getting ready for that and didn't put you off. And have you become injured from doing things? Like when you've done things like this, have you got injured? Had any major injuries from doing that, or have you been able
only
to...
Only minor injuries, just something if, for whatever minor reason.
Some strain of some
A little
sort.
strain, so it would go away in a week or so, which has been fine. But I'm always very cautious of knowing my limits. I don't want to injure myself majorly.
That's so sensible that you say that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I know what my body can handle. I know, and when I do all my movements, even at work, I lift about 25,000 pounds a day at work, and every time I lift is very cautious to do it right. And I actually think of it as training as I'm doing it all day long. Every step, every time I carry something, every time I lift something is all preparation towards the expedition, and I look at it that way. And so I don't want to injure myself, and I don't want to take time off with an injury. So every day makes me stronger.
Even the day to day, you've kind of had those things in mind on what you're doing, which is why you're able to create these massive goals without it feeling like... I'm not saying it doesn't feel big to you anymore, but just to say, okay, I'm going to climb Everest now. I've probably become used to you saying that because you've done everything geared towards that. Like you talked earlier about small steps up to the big thing that's coming up. So that's just...
Exactly. And the way I look at it is to break it down into small steps. To take the word demonstrate is to demonster something. So a monster is big and scary, but to demonster it is to make it not scary and to break it down. And so taking something like an Everest expedition and breaking it into all the parts of the endurance and the altitude and the weather and the temperatures and the time and spent and the strength that it takes to break it down into all its different components and take it off in smaller bites in order to accomplish the larger goal.
So would you say that patience is a big part of your personality then?
It's huge, yes.
It feels like it has to be when you say the small bites that go to the big, because people just say, well, I want to run the marathon now, but they haven't done the 5K or the 10K yet. And then they go for the marathon, injure themselves, hurt themselves. So many problems that they're put off running always. They don't even go back to a 5 or a 10K. They just say running's not for me. So tell us about patience in this type of thing, in how you've engaged in patience over, I would say, the last 20 years of just being wonderful at this. So tell me about your patience level that...
Yeah, exactly. You've hit it exactly. And I learned a lot from watching videos of triathlons, Ironman triathlon, watching the world champions, how they win a championship. And that was what they talked about, the wisdom and the patience. The patience was always key because in an Ironman, the pros are doing it 8.5 hours. It's a long day, and the amateurs are even longer out there. But to go out with patience, not to go out charging and burn up all your energy in the beginning. And that's how, for them, the professionals win the race, is using patience to run down someone who has the rabbit who has gone out faster.
And the hare, the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So using that from my triathlon experience of the patience and the wisdom to understand what's involved and the learning and the research is exactly what's needed. So the youthful vitality, as they say, youth is wasted on the young.
Yes.
It's for, in this case, of doing expeditions, actually, as people age, they are a little better able to handle the physical demands, the mental demands, the emotional demands of what an expedition takes. So patience is extremely important.
Good. Tell us about your mindset and how you get your mindset to stay. You've got your patience, but then you have to have a positive mindset, which I'm a big believer and talk about so often, about how a positive mindset changes everything. How have you managed to stay positive throughout these years of just continuing to the next thing and planning the next thing? What have you done personally to help you with that?
It has been a challenge. I definitely say that for sure. And sometimes I even get the doubts of, is this something I should be doing? Is there something else in life that I should be doing instead? But I think it has come back to For me, I believe this is a calling for me. And so it's something for me to walk in. And there's often times where it doesn't seem that it might be possible. I know in the years looking back, in 2010, I was hoping to have done Everest in 2012. 2012 turned out to be an infamous year on Mount Everest. There was a lot of bad decisions were made by people and a lot of tragedies that happened in 2012. So in hindsight, I was glad that I wasn't there at that time.
Yeah.
And then 2014 was the year of the icefall on Mount Everest. In the Kumba icefall, 16 Sherpas were killed, and they were the best of the best. And so again, that was a tragic, huge tragic for the Sherpa community and for that. So they closed the mountain in 2014, sent everyone home. And then 2015, as many people know, was the year of the earthquake, which again caused much tragedy on Mount Everest as well as throughout Nepal. So in hindsight,
all these times that you weren't going was a reason why.
There was a reason why you
weren't
and
there
so
at that time.
I was frustrated at the time.
But now you know why.
Yes. And
now
so
you know why.
So looking forward to next year, 2018, feeling good and, the positivity. So it's not so much of losing the positive mindset, but again, it comes back to the patience, and the timing, as they say, in the fullness of time.
Timing is so important in everything, isn't it?
Yeah. And I get frustrated sometimes because I have what I want to do.
You have your agenda, and then life gets in the way of that bit of an agenda.
Exactly, and so even just recently, I think I told you before that I'd been hoping to do Argentina in November, so now I've postponed that to January.
Okay.
So it's when I have trouble sleeping at nights because I think about it and I feel the pressure of that, my timeline that I set approaching, and when I let it go, I felt much better.
And haven't you slept better now that you've?
I'm
sure
better,
you have, because you did talk to me about November. Now it's January. It's just 8 more weeks. But look how now you're rested at night, because now January is the best time, because you've listened to your instinct. You've listened to that inner voice that keeps waking you up. I know it sounds weird to say inner voice and instinct, but I really believe in listening to that, because I think it's a big, big deal to listen to what your own body's telling you. So now you've decided January, now you're calm again, aren't you? Because now okay, I can go through November, December, let's get January done then. So what do you have coming up for your events now over this next little while? So you've got Argentina coming up. So,
January.
Okay.
And then Mount Everest would be in March through the end of May. So Mount Everest itself is a 10-week expedition from start to finish. So a couple weeks trekking to get into the base camp, acclimatizing, and then spending the month of April at base camp, more acclimatizing. But what I'm hoping for, if the weather allows and if logistics allow, is to make a summit ascent at the end of April, and then hopefully a week later to do a second summit ascent, if all logistics allow.
Okay, yes.
And then take a good rest through May, and then hopefully one more, the third ascent, at the end of May. So 3 ascents of Mount Everest would be the ideal plan.
So that would be over 6 weeks? Or
approximately 6 weeks, yes. So that's the grand target.
That's what you've been kind of working towards.
So Argentina will be a good preparation for that. So 4 weeks.
4 weeks, and that was about to ask how long that is.
Yeah, 4 weeks in Argentina, and hopefully 3 ascents in 4 weeks would give a good indicator of how I'm feeling, how things are going. And it's a good indicator of living on the mountain, the weather, the climate, and just adjusting to the altitude and everything that goes with it.
Good. And who are you doing that with? Who will you be with when you're doing that?
For Argentina, I'm hoping to hire just some local people that I know, that I've met through others who have done it before.
Great.
So they're experienced at it, and so hopefully do it with them.
Okay.
And then for Mount Everest, the guide that I would like to hire, hopefully if he's available, is Tim Ripple from Peak Freaks. He's out of Nelson.
Okay.
So it's really great to have
someone sort
local.
of close. Yeah,
yes.
That's great.
And I've met him a few years ago to be able to talk with him. And he was coming through Kelowna. And so I just said, hey, I wanted to talk with you just to let you know, this is what my idea is, what my plan is. This is what I'm hoping to do. And, this is what I've done in the past. This is what my training has been. This is what I do for work and things like that. So after talking with him, and that he had said, well, with my fitness background and my training experience, and then under his guidance and leadership, he says, you can just step up to Everest.
Good. So
I'm
isn't
like,
that great? Isn't that great? So
yes.
Someone who even inspired you even more. Like, I love to meet people that can tell me more than I already know and inspire me in that time. It looks like he'd be good company with you to do that, because he has that big picture thinking about, it's just Everest. Let's step up there.
Yeah, and he has about 35 years of experience, and I believe he summited twice himself.
Excellent.
And he's very pragmatic, so everything is done step by step, which is exactly how you
want to be.
Yes.
You don't want to be rushed up there or take a bad move there or do something. If you've actually done your own training yourself, with a bit of a structure and patience in mind, what you have to do it with somebody that has the same thinking.
Exactly. Again, when I had mentioned before about bad decisions being made in previous years, he's someone that can make very good decisions.
And you need that guidance there at that time, even though you've made good decisions because you've done these summits. We're still here today telling the story because you've made it, but it's good to have that great company.
And I've learned that, and that's the thing I've learned, even doing smaller mountains here around us, learning the weather, watching the weather, and making decisions about just the clothing to wear for each time I go out, so that I don't run into those times where I need rescuing or find myself in a panic situation. So it's making those decisions even on the smaller times, and so that's been a helpful experience.
Yes, no, that's good. Tell us about your nutrition during this training, because you need to stay strong and fit. And earlier I talked about how nutrition plays such a great part in everything that you do. I'm a big believer, like I said earlier, you are what you eat. So tell us about your nutrition in training and out of training. Is there an in-season and an off-season? Explain to us how that works for your food and how you have this energy and enthusiasm to sort of get through it.
Yeah, so as you had mentioned earlier in your introduction, how important nutrition is. And I really like how you had said that by having that nutrition, you have the energy to then help others and to lift up other people with that energy. So, yes, of course, training for something like this or Ironman training demands a lot of energy, and a lot of calories get burned in that expenditure. And so on average, I consume about 4,000 calories a day. Maybe heavier training might be up to 5,000 calories a day.
Okay.
And again, this is me going against the grain.
Yes.
About 80% of that, about 3,000 calories or so, is carbohydrate, complex carbohydrate.
Which you probably like the taste of as well.
I do.
Don't you? And that it's wholesome and it's heavy, and that's what you need on these treks.
Exactly. So having the pasta and the rice, the wild rice, and that, and lots of fruits and vegetables, and doing nutrition, getting the nutrition that I need, and having the protein and the healthy fats.
Yes.
And that, so to make up around 4,000 calories, to expend that. Now, once I actually get out onto expedition for Everest and other mountains like Denali in Alaska and Argentina, the body consumes a lot, so probably closer to 8,000 calories will be consuming, and the body is under a lot of stress.
Okay.
So in preparation, I'm trying to get my body as efficient as possible to be able to digest those calories so my body can use them as energy. Oftentimes, when I'm reading about other expeditions, even though the body is demanding those high 8,000, 9,000 calories, oftentimes people are under so much stress that they have trouble digesting that. And so then you're causing more stress on the body. So again, part of my preparation, not only for the altitude and adjusting to that to get my body as efficient as possible, to produce the red blood cells, to have the oxygen carrying capacity, but also to have that digestion for my body to easily assimilate the calories